Greetings, everyone. I'm going to share with you the most important tool for helping our students become successful in our classrooms. I've used this on all 4 continents where I've taught, and with students from over 40 different countries, and with every level and age group. And not only has it been very effective, but also my students' responses have been overwhelmingly positive. When we think about aspects of students that need to be adjusted, there are things like coming to class late, or not doing homework, not paying attention, not participating, not asking the teacher for help, not following directions. And often we'll notice these habits among some of the students at the beginning of a term. I'll tell you about an extreme example of a teaching situation that I was in and how I was able to develop a tool to completely turn the students' behavior around in a very positive way. Then I'll share with you ways that we can apply this tool to typical ESL classrooms. Early in my career, my wife and I were hired to teach ESL in a foreign country. It was at a prep school that high school students attended in the evenings after high school in order to study English. Shortly after arriving, we met one of the teachers whom we were replacing. He told us that the school had a lot of discipline problems because many of the students just didn't want to be there. He said that the teacher turnover was quite high as a result. In fact, a couple of teachers had just disappeared a few months earlier. On the first day of class, as we walked down the hallway, we could see students literally chasing each other around the classroom and jumping on the desks. My first class was with 16 10th grade students who were around 15 years old. As I started the lesson, most of the students paid little attention to me, but continued to chat with each other. I could feel my blood pressure rising and I started to sweat. I was wondering, how was I going to be able to accomplish anything with these students, and thought maybe we made a big mistake taking these jobs. Fortunately, there were 3 female students sitting in the front row, appearing eager to begin. Those 3 became the focus of my attention that day. Gradually, some of the other students started to engage in the lesson, while others slept or doodled or looked out the window. I was able to make it through the lesson, but I felt drained of energy by the end. After class at home, I knew I needed some kind of tool to manage these students. I knew that it had to be personalized for each individual student, not something that I just say to the whole class. And it had to be private. I didn't want to embarrass anyone in front of the others. And it had to be specific about what each of them needed to do in order to be successful. So after a good night's sleep, I came up with the perfect tool. Before class, I put together this simple feedback form and filled one out for each student. So at the first part of it, I point out what I felt like were their strong points on that first day. They paid attention, or you made a good effort, came to class on time, and you have the ability to do well. And I also then tried to give some recommendations on how they could improve. So one would be, come to class earlier, or try to listen more carefully to the teacher. Try to participate in activities. And then I had another space for extra comments. Fortunately, I had those 3 female students whom I could praise for their focus, attention, participation, and good work, and to whom I gave a classroom grade for day 1 of 20 over 20. For even the least attentive students, I could check something positive, like you came to class on time and you have the ability to do well. In the other comments, for some students, I wrote, I recommend that you try to answer questions, or I recommend you try to wait until break to talk to your friends. Or I recommend that you try to stay awake. The classroom grades for day one varied from 5/20 for the sleepers to 20/20. The next class, nobody slept. Nobody chatted during the lesson, and several more of the students joined the three females in becoming engaged in the lesson. 2 days later, I gave them another note and daily grade. Everyone's grade improved, many of them significantly. I was soon able to reduce how often I gave these to about once a week, and I added a couple of points. You complete your homework on time, and you follow directions well. And then I added some how to improve. Try to complete your homework assignments before coming to class. Ask your teacher for help if you don't understand. So everyone knew what I was expecting in them, and they were performing admirably. Sometimes when I entered a class, some students would ask me, "Will you give us our daily grade papers today?" After class, a couple of students told me, "We love these papers, especially if we get a 20/20. If someone gets a 10/20, everyone finds out, and uh-oh." I'm not sure how they find out what the other students' grades are, since I hand them out individually. But it was interesting to see that there was some kind of peer pressure taking place. As I mentioned, this was an evening class for 15-year-olds, so it's not surprising that their behavior may have needed some shaping. This tool has been effective in making it possible to show each individual student, how they can best develop their language skills. For those younger students, I tried to reinforce their positives by giving them these feedback forms once a week or so. With more mature students, for example, in college or adult education, I only needed to give one early in the term and then another 1 or 2 later to let them know that I recognize their performance. So here are some reasons why this classroom tool is so effective. Students are given positive feedback on what they are doing that is helping them develop their skills. And they can see specifically what the teacher's recommendations are, and if they need to, adjust how they are meeting those. Also, no student is embarrassed in front of his or her classmates. The teacher doesn't have to feel under pressure to call out a student during the class. The feedback can remain private. Also, the feedback is specific, depending on the goals of the course and or the goals of a specific activity. For example, these have been very effective for helping students in conversation and discussion activities. I'll give you here some feedback forms that I've used after conversation and discussion activities. Oh, by the way, I'll include a link in the notes below where you can find a copy of these forms that you can download if you'd like. So this is just the real basic class participation one. So, I said your strong points, you always make a good effort. Or you try to use only English. And then how you can improve, try to talk more during speaking activities. Or try to only use English. And then maybe one with a little bit more detail. And then this is one I gave after a conversation activity that the students had done. You try to use rejoinders. For example, I see, great. You ask questions to get more details from other students. Or you look interested in what others are saying. You make a good effort, and you use only English. And then how you can improve, try to use more rejoinders. For example, I see, that's great. Or try to ask more questions to others. Try to look interested in what others are saying, and try to use only English. I've introduced this technique to many teachers who are teaching in a variety of countries and situations. And almost all of them have reported that it has been an effective and humane technique for encouraging students and redirecting ones who need it. Thank you for watching.